and share this link around because I've been running a bit late this morning. I don't know if I can. Can I make it go small? Nope. Can't get out. Oh, hang on. Whoops. Share with Facebook. So I'm just trying to... Too much to do. So I'm sorry I'm a bit late getting off this little chat this morning. I had a few things to do, and I've had to watch a recording of a parliamentary budget estimates involving the New South Wales Minister for Local Government, Ron Honig. And there's something not right with Ron. I'm going to ask if you can all help me point out what the weirdnesses are, what the things are with him. But he's in a budget estimates a month ago with Nichole Overall, and she's the nasty bitch from Queanbeyan that recently got parachuted in. She didn't get elected, did she? No. Nichole lost against me 2 years ago in the state election. And she didn't get elected, and she had to wait for a casual vacancy. So in the Parliament, both in the federal upper house and the state upper house, we have MLCs, members of the Legislative Council, and if they resign, retire, die, whatever, causes a casual vacancy, that the party can nominate someone else to take that role. So Nichole was basically dropped into a seat replacing Sam Faraway. The backstory is that her friend Bronnie Taylor, who I've talked about, incredibly corrupt woman, and incredibly venal and incredibly nasty, part of the Taylor family, the Angus Taylor and the $80 million of water that he sold to the government that didn't exist, and the money went to the Cayman Islands, things like that. That's that family. She retired from the Parliament because I think her past was catching up with her. And there was a casual vacancy, and I think Nikki was going to get that, but the party majority up north said, no way, we'll not have it. They hate her. So she missed out, and it went to a bloke from Orange. But I think then the party realised, or the Liberal Party said, hey, our gender balance is falling. We need a woman, and Nichole Overall got the next casual vacancy. Now, Nikki hates being called Nikki, and she's very sad, like sad Nikki, just sad. If you know, you know what I just said. And nasty woman. You've never met anyone as vindictive and as nasty as this bloody Nichole Overall creature. She's got a secret crush on me. It's quite an interesting thing. So let's start the morning off with now. I will play, it's about 9 minutes. I'll play it for you all to watch just off my laptop. I'll turn the volume up. We've got some idiot jackhammering in the paddock. But I'll set up my little candle holder. If I can. Turn the camera around. Come on. That is Minister Ron Honig from the New South Wales Parliament. So he is in estimates. These are some other politicians. And we then have the chair of the meeting goes to what's called the opposition, which is where Nichole Overall gets into it. And I'll play this now so you can see what you all think.
Minister, through the opposition. Minister, I draw you back to Dr. Con's line of questioning on performance improvement.
That's Nichole.
And one that's nothing to do with amalgamations. I will say that I and the Monero community acknowledge you taking action on issuing the performance improvement order for the Snowy Monero Regional Council. But I believe you also are very aware that it's far more serious than simply squabbling, as you described one of the other examples. So can you very briefly say why you've taken the action in this particular instance?
I know what their concern is, and I also know what the limitations are of the ability to intervene. There is an implied freedom of political communication that exists, that's been imposed on the High Court. And so any legislation or any rules or codes that are inconsistent with that right are invalid. You would appreciate as well as I do that in dealing with those problems and those issues, you have to negotiate very carefully the process to ensure that you do not leave yourself open for decisions to be set aside. The performance improvement order required signed undertakings. As I think last week, finally the person you're referring to has signed.
So all councillors under the requirements that you issued have now signed?
All of them have done so. I have, in some of the, as I call them, code of meeting practice reforms, the Mayor will be given additional power to act within meetings, but even without those reforms, the Mayor and the Council have other actions available to them.
Limited though, Minister?
What's that?
They're still limited?
No, they're not really. I mean, part of the problem with a number of councils is that rather than utilising the powers that are available to them, they wait till the end of the meeting and then put in a code of conduct complaint. But there is a certain requirement for councillors to conduct themselves in a particular way, to have the meetings dealt with quickly, to move
notice something on the thumb.
Powers to move the gag, and the council itself can give the Mayor power to remove councillors, and the council itself can remove by resolution. So I think if matters drag on in those council meetings after the improvement order and the undertaking, it might help. It might help for some training as to how that person can be handled. And I understand there are also other areas such as work health and safety matters being looked at. There are other areas, but I don't understate the issue. I mean, I've actually heard from magistrates who have had that person in their courtroom. So I've spoken to other members of Parliament and members of the Legislative Council that have dealt with that councillor. I don't underestimate or dismiss easily what those concerns are.
No, and the community at large is certainly very aware of your acknowledgement of the seriousness of the situation.
I just say this: Snowy Monaro have their own really difficult challenges as it is.
Yes.
The last thing they need is to be distracted by that. So I'm really conscious of that, but I'm really conscious of ensuring that if I err as a matter of law because of then that will make the situation worse.
Yep, I understand. Thank you, Minister, and for pointing that out as well. Just a couple of points to that. And what you're talking about there, whether you are limited to a degree in how you can address serious matters that we're seeing before us for SMRC. But one of the things that I would point out, and which was included in your performance improvement order, is that there's alleged offences against both the Public Interest Disclosures Act 2022 and alleged offence against the Local Government Act 1993. Would that not give you more opportunity to act from a legal perspective and to have more opportunity to address clearly what are serious breaches, alleged breaches in that respect alone.
Now that I've issued a performance improvement order, I'm in a position to be in a stronger in a stronger position. Mm-hmm. One of the things actually that has occurred over the years, and in fact it started off by actually the Grima Fay government, and then was continued on for recollection by the O'Farrell government, is that when they got elected, they always promised to provide, independence and protection from the state for local government. So the days where the minister could just sack a council can't occur anymore. The days ministers could, get them to do stuff by these sort of threats. I mean, they were all removed. So they have the state's power to deal with recalcitrant councils are effectively limited. I suppose it's a bit like the Commonwealth trying to deal with the recalcitrant states. They can't deal with them either. So they've been put in that situation. I have some additional powers of the performance improvement order. Okay. I'm monitoring it closely.
And that's
I'm going to... I'm just going to have another talk to Mr Whitworth about chairing council meetings. I'm not taking up your time because I'm happy to sit here for 2 days if you like, but
me too.
Gary Payne, who was the Secretary of the then Department of Local Government, who, with Jerry Peacock, shepherded through the 1993 Local Government Act. He would have been an expert at local government. He went up to Tweed as the administrator and was ringing me about how you contain a ruling planning committee because all these people were shouting and yelling out abuse. So just because you are a local government expert, unless you've actually been an elected person chairing a meeting, it's a different job altogether. Yep. So I'm going to have a talk to Mr Whitworth, and maybe I might go down there and talk to the mayor about the way in which I would chair a council meeting in his circumstances.
And I think it's, I don't know whether you've had the chance to watch on those meetings that are taking 5 and 6 hours to pass through business papers. So, no, they don't. And so I think it's a little bit more than just the chairing as well, but I do appreciate your continued attention to it. So can I just quickly...
procedures the procedures too. I mean, you can move the gag, and there are ways in which you can work out how to move the gag and push matters through.
And I guess it's the longer term effects of all of this as well. So just quickly then, so that I can hand back to one of my colleagues to ask questions as well. You're saying that you're monitoring this very closely. There's going to be monthly reports on council. So I'm presuming that has to be prepared by council staff. More importantly to that, Minister, what are the ramifications going to be, and what sort of timeline are you looking at should any of those councillors who have now signed this order be in breach? Are we going to be back here in 12 months' time asking the same questions, or are you going to be able to act more quickly?
I don't want to publicly prejudge something that hasn't occurred. That would be probably improper, and it would be subject to a legitimate complaint. But
the ultimate ramification would be the council going into administration. That would be the worst case scenario.
Well, that would need a public inquiry, and you don't interfere lightly with you don't interfere lightly with the democratic process.
No, I agree with you, Minister, but this is a very, very serious situation.
I understand
as you know.
it's a very serious
the community is absolutely beside themselves, and if it continues to go on, it's also setting a bad example for other councils across the state.
It brings local government into disrepute.
It absolutely does.
It needs all the assistance it can to restore its reputation.
I agree. So I would ask, and I presume that you are already committed to ensuring that this is continue to be looked at in the most serious way possible.
It is being. I can assure you that it is being. But I'll now make I'll make a point of considering whether or not I should have, whether I should involve myself and give the mayor the benefit of my local government experiences distinct from ministerial duties in an effort to try and aid the process.
Okay, thank you, Minister. I'll hand to my colleague.
Thank you. Minister, 12 months ago...
Well, how about that, boys and girls, fellow shoppers? Yes, that woman is insufferable. That is Nichole Overall. And I made her lose her seat in the 2022 state election. 2023 state election. 2023. Yes, she is corrupt. You are corrupt, Nichole Overall. You have just revealed you're interfering. And when you say, like, the vast majority of the community or the majority of the community are in outrage, they're in outrage at your friends. Tanya Higgins and Linda Summers, Narelle Davis, John Rooney, Tricia Hopkins and Chris Hanna. They are outraged at the disgusting behaviour of those people. They lie in the meetings. I call a point of order against them misrepresenting facts in the debate. And it's not upheld because immediately they turn around and say, I didn't say that. And it's very easy to illustrate because I can take you to the most recent council meeting. G'day from Frankfurt. Innocent bystander, extremely rude and unprofessional when people continually interrupt others while answering questions. So what you notice in that exchange, did you notice the really long pause at the beginning when Nichole opened up with the minister and asked a question? It was about a 12 or 13 second pause, just a blank stare. Frankfurt is a city in Germany. I've been to Frankfurt and I went to the Museum of Finance where I looked at the display of Thaler's Sayed Soir. That's my surname, Thaler, or Thaler in Australia, or Thaler. I went to the Frankfurt Museum, and if you go there yourself, you can have a look at all the monetary exhibits, and especially the Thalers. So back to Nichole. She asked the question of the minister, and he's just stuck. His brain was stuck. Now, I don't know if he'd had a big night on the Terps the night before. G'day, Roxy from California. But he struggled to make answers. Now, that bloke with the dyed hair, he's a bit creepy. He's been making TikTok videos with sexually suggestive music overlays, and that's been raised in Parliament and questioned. He went to an apprenticeship awards ceremony in Newcastle, and there was a young girl there in a pair of heels and a black dress. Pretty standard thing. She won an apprenticeship award, and he come across her at a similar event 6 months later or something, and he asked her about her LBD, her little black dress, and she said that she sold it. She had to sell it, and because she needed the money. So that minister in the dyed hair, who was struggling to answer questions, gave her $500 so that she could buy the dress and the heels back. He gave it to her in anonymous cash, gift cards. And then he was questioned about that in Parliament, said, oh, it was my own money. Well, sure, these guys get paid a ton of money. But was it appropriate for a 74-year-old man to give a 19-year-old young woman who he had spotted wearing heels and a little black dress at an awards ceremony with a massive power imbalance between the minister of a local government and a young girl starting her apprenticeship, getting an award in her end of her first or second year or something? And of all the people he would come in touch with, he remembered her at a subsequent event because of her little black dress and heels. And that he gave her money to be able to buy the dress back. What was next? He offers her a job as an intern in his office. It's creepy and it's weird. And it's interesting that he opened up his explanation in response to Nichole Overall where there's a fine balance between your implied right of political communication, which was upheld in the High Court, which I am very aware of. So the Office of Local Government has effectively taken the performance improvement order against us, and old Ron Boy doesn't really know enough about it. He is speaking from a deficit of knowledge. He knows of it, but he doesn't know about it or what's in it because he didn't write it. Brett Whitworth did. It doesn't pass the pub test, does it? Thanks, Dieseline. Do I speak German? Nein, sprechen Sie Deutsch, Sayed. Nein, sprechen Sie Deutsch. Not from the UK, I'm from Australia. G'day, mate, from Australia. So we have an international audience. It's good. So we're talking about local government. I am a councillor in our local government here in Snowy Monero. And that bitch in the blonde hair, the fake blonde hair and the fake everything, she says she's our local member. She's not. She's a member for the whole state. She just happens to live nearby. And she wants to control our council. And she now knows she's lost control of our council. She's lost control. So the criticism is our meetings are too long. No, the meetings are longer than they used to be, because the former council, with all of her friends on it, with a much stronger majority, passed most of the business what's called by exception. They have a thing called passing it by exception. So instead of voting on each agenda item and debating each agenda item, they would vote on 20 agenda items at once and just pass them all at once with no debate. So sometimes over a half or 3/4 of the business paper, the agenda items, would be passed at the beginning of the meeting with one vote, no debate. And the public had no fucking idea what was going on. And it was indicative of deals being made behind closed doors by those councillors and the executive. And when I was campaigning to be elected, and I've run 3 times, and I've made it clear, I said there will be no passing motions by exception. Everything will be open, public, each matter presented and voted on. You don't have to debate every motion. Many motions are simply procedural. It's a motion to note information. You don't need to speak to it. And I've made that clear. Nichole went on to criticise, and then the minister brought up the example of Tweed Council with shouting and an unruly. I'm not the one shouting. I'm not the one abusing. I'm not the one telling lies. I'm not the one making pointless orders, points of orders or misconduct allegations. I'm not the one doing that. I am very clinical, I am very legal, and I'm very structured in what I do and how I debate. But the gang lie about me constantly, and I rise to raise a point of order against an attempt to mislead the chamber, and then when the chair turns to the person who I've made the order against them, and they first thing they say is, I didn't say that. So I actually write down a lot of what they say now, so I can say, well, actually you did. What you said is this, this, and this. No, I didn't say that. The chair then says, I don't think they said that, and they rule against me. You play the recording back, and it's exactly what they said. So the mayor, our mayor in council, is not only corrupt, he's an idiot. And he's getting a financial benefit because he has a secret contract, has had a secret contract to supply the council. We had a really important motion brought forward by Luke Williamson, which was to have our council internal auditor audit all payments to current and past mayors and deputy mayors. And you'll never guess who spoke the strongest against that motion. John Rooney, former mayor. Tanya Higgins, the big fat liar, former deputy mayor. Narelle Davis, former mayor. And when I asked at the conclusion of the debate, I said to the general manager, a question through the chair to the general manager, as is the process, would it be fair to say that those who spoke most strongly against this motion were all former mayors or deputy mayors? And he refused to answer. I wonder why. I'll see if I can play it for you. I can bring up the meeting somewhere in wrong window. Let me just have a look and see if I've still got it up. Yep, we do. I mean, just give me a second. Indulge me.
And we're loading up our not too much. We've already asked them to do an audit of the
I'll turn around. You can watch this bit.
which is going to displace their usual course of work, which is required.
It's John Rooney, former mayor,
They won't be able to do that because they're going to be auditing.
But point of
No, they
order.
won't be able to audit the quarry
Yes,
because they're auditing.
Councillor, please, your point.
The Audit and Risk Committee does not audit council's finances. That's done by the Audit Office in New South Wales.
That is correct.
The Audit and Risk Committee look at a wide range of matters.
This is Luke
including
Williamson.
Compliance audits and performance audits. This is exactly the sort of work that they should be doing.
But they've already got their work program for this year.
Point of order. Councillor Rooney. Sorry, I have a point of order because we've discussed this before. Sorry, Chair. Councillor Rooney is mischaracterising fact. In the last...
Councillor Taylor, please. Can I discuss one point of order at a time? I do not need you to rule on a point of order or raise a second point of order. Councillor Williamson, you are correct. ARIC's role is to consider the overall compliance. You're right. They do not physically conduct the audits, but it will be up to ARIC to decide what areas of attention.
I'm sorry, they do not do our statements audits. That's done by the audit.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Councillor Williamson?
Sorry, point of order. I did not propose to rule. Councillor William made a point of order. You discussed it. I thought it was
What's
finished.
your point of order, Councillor Taylor?
Councillor Rooney is mischaracterising the debate. We have spoken previously. In the last ARIC
This
meeting,
characterisation of debate is not actually a point of order. So
well, it's then not...
what is the untrue statement or the misleading or the breach or what are we doing?
Ready?
Yes.
In the last ARIC meeting, the auditor told us, because I watched the meeting, he had no work at the moment. So we're not displacing his ordinary work. And so when Councillor Rooney says this would displace him from doing his ordinary work, he has no work. He got the Nichole quarry work 2 weeks ago, and we think that this was appropriate because he had no work. So there's an incorrect statement and it's misleading council.
Councillor Taylor, you're misrepresenting that this is an auditor that is owned by this council and we can give him work on the grounds that, oh, he's a little bit free at the moment. That's not quite how the auditor, we don't task the auditor. We don't think up, no, we don't think up jobs for the auditor to do.
So if I just clarify as a non-voting member of the committee, it was conveyed to the committee that the auditor has little to do at the moment. But thank you.
Yes.
Is this auditor to be paid in? Like, to, not asking you. CEO? Do we pay them all the time? So are we paying someone to not do any work?
The auditor is engaged by the Canberra Region Joint Organisation. So the services of the auditor that we utilise are paid for through our...
So just so you know, the large lady in the red dress is Tanya Higgins, and the other idiot was John Rooney. Tanya Higgins is a former deputy mayor. This is the current deputy mayor, general manager. And over here we had Luke Williamson, who's on the ARIC committee. That's me, that's Rooney. Large red dress. Just so you can get the picture of who's who.
Contribution that we make to the joint organisation. So we don't pay the auditor directly. He's employed by the joint organisation.
Okay, so if we were to do an audit like this, it would cost us anything.
This might be over and above. That's why this is being referred to the audit committee to consider, because the council, as I pointed out to Councillor Williamson previously, in relation to this, the council can't direct the auditor. The council can't direct the audit committee to do anything. Yep.
But we can direct the auditor's attention to the matter, and he can then do an internal audit. I gave the internal auditor work years ago when I raised concerns. I wasn't even a councillor, I was just a citizen, a member of the community. Just to jump in there, I raised issues of payroll anomalies. There was rumours of fake employees being paid by our council, ghost employees. And the internal auditor met with me. I gave him my information, and he then conducted an audit into the payroll. Of course, they won't give us the result of that, will they? But anyway, Let's go back. You'll see in a minute where Rooney just goes nuts.
It's the audit committee that decides the priority based on risk.
I'm listening to
The audit committee determines the audit program for the council based on risk.
Okay, so they have
So
a meeting similar to this.
they determine what the auditor's work is. Right. So this is referring this matter to the audit committee
For them
to consider it against other priority audits, other risk matters of risk, as to where this could fit into their program and whether the audit committee considers it appropriate for the auditor's resources to be allocated towards this. That's all this is doing.
Quite clearly stated in point 8.
Just while I'm asking the questions, can I just, because this is, would they need to have, like we've been told before that audits are done when there's a sign that's an audit needs to be done.
Based on risk, yes.
Yeah, so would they need something? Like, I appreciate Councillor Williamson saying it's good hygiene, but I'm not sure that our finances necessarily kind of allow us to just do stuff because it's good hygiene. But we've been told before that an audit usually follows a red flag or something has come up which suggests it's worthwhile doing a deep dive. So would they need to have something?
Would they need to have something? How about the mayor secretly supplying the council with an uncontested contract? I think that's a red flag. Tanya? How about in the March 2021 meeting, maybe it was, when Tanya first was elected to council, and Tanya said she would claim every single expense entitlement that she would be entitled to, be it travel, accommodation, training, kid care, whatever. She actually made it clear. She's an ex-public servant from Canberra. She would claim every single entitlement. And so the audit would look to see what had been claimed. And it's pretty clear, my information as well, is that Tanya claims travel for everything, to everywhere. So yeah, there would be things for the auditor to check, Tanya, and you know it, and that's why you didn't want it to happen. Let's continue.
Madam Acting Mayor, Deputy Mayor, that's a matter for them to consider. Should this go through, this motion as drafted here would be provided to the audit committee. They would have some questions, I would imagine, to the staff about this. What's the context of this? Is there any evidence of any suspected wrongdoing? But as part of that process and discussion with the staff, if they considered it did warrant allocation of audit resources to do it, then the process would be working through with staff, myself and the other staff, what's the scope of that audit? So that would be the process. So from there, that scope of that audit would then determine the level of resources required and whether it could be accommodated within the ISJO budget for audit, or whether this would be a separate service that auditor would provide at a set fee for the council.
And would that come back to council?
Probably, yes. Yes.
So if that's the case,
We've sort of mixed debate.
Yeah,
I was just wondering if we could allow Councillor Rooney to finish and then maybe we can do
then I
two
just
more
want to
questions.
ask Councillor Williams something.
Yes, Councillor Rooney.
Councillor Rooney.
How many joint audits are we proposing to give to the audit committee? We've already got the Nichole Overall. Now we've got this huge forensic audit that came out over the last 10 years. And Councillor Williamson.
Councillor Rooney, I'm so sorry, another point about it. Yes, Councillor Williamson.
This is not a giant audit. There's no, it's a straightforward matter. It's not enormous. It's not giant. We should not mischaracterise what it is.
I don't even know what to rule on that. It was a good comment.
You
It's not really pointing on it, but you maybe want to reduce the word.
You started the clock too soon. It got me a 5 precious seconds. 3 minutes.
9 seconds.
Councillor Rooney, maybe refer to it as not giant.
It said that you're not the
That's fine. We don't know. We don't know if it's giant or not giant. It's personal opinion at the moment as to the magnitude of this audit. So Councillor Williamson can say it's not giant. You can say it is giant. Nobody knows. Let's just call it an audit, a proposed audit.
Okay. Now, why are we doing this? What is the problem? It looks like a fishing expedition to me. But what fish are you trying to catch, Councillor Williamson? What is the evidence you have that there's any wrongdoing here? Why is this audit in the first
Point
place?
of order, Ms. Acting
You've got
Mayor.
to put that in there.
As I said, I'm making no accusation of any wrongdoing. This is a matter of verifying.
So what's your point? Is there an inaccurate statement, incorrect statement, a breach? We're just basically you're just disagreeing with what Councillor Rooney is saying. That's not a point of order.
Oh, I am disagreeing with Councillor Rooney mischaracterising the motion. The motion is to have an audit. If it finds wrongdoing, we'll deal with it. I'm not saying there is wrongdoing.
There are audits every year, Councillor Williamson.
I've never done an audit of things.
Let's not have conversations between the two of you. Please be careful with what your point of orders are. These are not point of orders.
Councillor Rooney is mischaracterising the intent of the motion.
Did you write the first paragraph in the background? The first one?
Yes.
Councillor Rooney, you've got about 43 seconds, and then we'll ask. Please, Councillor, stop. We are in debate.
I'm not saying.
Councillor Williamson, please stop and sit down. Councillor Rooney,
You need to put that.
I am.
Councillor Williamson has given us no evidence of any misallocation of funds in the past. No reason to do this. It just looks like a witch hunt. It's going after the mayor for no good reason. And there are plenty of other things we could be looking at, Councillor Williamson. We could be looking at, well, our councillors paying their rates, for example. We're going to look at that too.
Point of order, that's an act of disorder.
It's not about the disorder.
Yes, it is. He has just made a personal reference to an issue, clearly directed at me to try and bring.
No, I'm sorry, I'm overruled. There was no reference to you whatsoever. It was a question about paying rates. If you feel that way, that is your choice, Councillor Thaler. Your point of order is overruled. Councillor.
I don't pay my rates. I'm in court fighting the council over the rates. Clearly, John Rooney was referencing me with what he said. Do you see how they run cover for each other? Deputy Mayor acting as the Mayor, covering for the former Mayor, and the red former Deputy Mayor asking questions to try to make all this grubby and ugly. This is the problem with this council. You notice that I'm not really featuring in that because I'm not the one making all these outlandish allegations. We will continue because it gets better.
I will give you an extra 20 seconds.
Point of order.
Oh, sorry, you lost 20 seconds. Sorry, Councillor Williamson.
Councillor Rooney has just accused me of going after the mayor. I'm not going after the mayor. In fact, the motion refers to the mayor, mayors, deputy mayors, or administrators, past or present. I'm not isolating out Mayor Hannah in any way, shape, or form. That is a complete mischaracterisation of the motion.
Your motion does
request
refer
that
to
it
mayors.
be withdrawn.
Please be careful how you speak. Maybe put an S on the word mayors and
Excuse me, I'm not going after mayors either. I'm not going after anyone. It's a request for an audit.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Rooney, probably 20 seconds. Do you need it?
Last time, Councillor Williamson's team thought they discovered corruption was the wage interloan painting that's hanging up in our team room, which he thought was corruptly purchased by me using council funds. In fact, it was purchased by me using my personal credit card.
Point of order.
So is that the evidence we're relying upon, Councillor Williamson?
Thank you, Councillor Rooney. Councillor Williamson.
Councillor Rennie has just accused me of making a corruption allegation against him. I've never made a corruption allegation against Mr. Rennie. I don't know what team he's referring to. I presume he's referring to the people who ran as part of the group
Councillor Williamson, so your point
that
of
needs
order
to be
is that,
withdrawn.
that is fine. So your point of order is that you're suggesting that Councillor Rooney has made an allegation that you have made an allegation against him of being corrupt. So, Councillor Rooney, I would ask you please to confirm that, please withdraw any possibility of that allegation.
I withdraw that because I never said that.
Thank you. Do we have anybody speaking for the motion? Councillor Taylor?
Oh, I did have a question, remember?
Oh, sorry, you did. Questions?
Yes, Councillor Williams.
I didn't get to speak to the motion, did I? Cut off. So then you have this ridiculous exchange with the Labor councillor, Tanya. You've got Rooney accusing Williamson and then being challenged and saying, oh, I didn't say that. It's pretty obvious to see what he said. There's an earlier exchange where Rooney accuses stuff of me and I rise to make a point of order. And then he says, oh, I didn't say that. I'll put that up as in some short clips. These people lie every single time. You catch them out and then they say, oh, I didn't say that. And the chair covers for them. Whether it's Hannah or Hopkins, they provide cover. The end of this meeting is completely ludicrous. I'll play it for you because the meeting was not closed. And so this was part 2 of the March meeting. The March meeting ran to 5 hours or 6 hours. It was adjourned. 5 hours, I think it was adjourned. But it was then closed by Hannah. Hannah said, oh, I adjourned the meeting. And then Nichole said, close it, close it, close it, under her breath. She sits next to me. I could hear her. And then he closed it before any of us could move a motion that the meeting be extended because they all wanted to go to the pub and go and have dinner or something stupid. It wasn't even late. It was 6 p.m. So then this meeting was called because Reuben Rose and I called an extraordinary meeting to resume the March business. And we come to the point now where there was still some 17 motions left to be debated in the agenda for March. And we get shut down. And the mayor puts it to a vote. I moved the mote from memory, a motion to extend the meeting. There was a bit of weirdness about it. I'll play that exchange. The motion was lost. And then the mayor says, under 18.3, I'm going to put all the unfinished business on the next meeting. And I rose to make a motion of dissent, which is how you bring a motion against someone's decision or against the mayor's decision. And then he says, I've already closed the meeting, so you can't. But he hadn't. So let's play that. I'm a little bit out of time sequence, so we'll find it in a sec.
Yes. Councillor Davis, you have 3 minutes.
I have to agree with Councillor. We just should put the motion.
Is that an issue?
Good point.
So this is the bit where they voted the order down without disclosing pecuniary interests, mind you. Higgins, Hopkins, Davis and Rooney should have all left the room, as did Mayor Hannah.
Whilst I'm trying to work out what a non-retrospective audit might look like.
Let me just...
I'll just be really simple. We've had a long day and a long debate.
I'll let it play. I'm just trying to get it lined up. Oh, come on, turn around. So this is the vote. This is the conclusion to the audit vote.
Because we're 10 years in, now's a great time to do it. Now's a great time to look backwards, see whether or not everything's hunky-dory. If it's not, we'll deal with that. If it is great, we can advise the community we've had a look. And, that is a great way in building confidence for the community. So, thank you for the debate, and I ask that we put it to the vote.
Thank you. With that, I put the motion as on the board in front of us. All those in favour, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Taylor. All those against, Councillor Summers, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Stewart, Councillor Rooney, Councillor Davis, Councillor Hopkins. The motion is lost.
Madam Chair, I seek to 18.2, code of meeting practice from memory. I would propose to move a motion from the floor that we continue this meeting for at least another 2 hours to try to reach a conclusion.
Just 1 moment, please. I will bring the mayor back into the meeting before we resume because he's entitled to do it.
You don't want to be here, go home, John.
I will, Councillor Carr. As soon as we wrap up this meeting, when the mayor returns.
Yes. Come back next week. There you go. A week after. Yeah, you drafted. That's the other thing, right? It would take a lot done.
How many motions are on the next meeting? 13.
13.
No, no, it's 20. But we've done the.
What was that motion?
18.6.
So this is the mayor resuming.
We finish the meeting. I second that.
Sorry. What was yours, sir, Councillor?
Sorry, I've already
It's expired and we finish the meeting.
I'm sorry, but I raised first.
Sorry, councillors. It's very clear that it's up to the chair to move a motion.
All right.
May move. May. The key word there is may. To extend for an hour. I just want to confirm where we're up to before I do anything.
Yeah, I raised just before the deputy mayor vacated the seats, and I suggested that we continue the meeting to conclude the agenda under 18.2 on memories of the code of meeting practice, and I will just quickly go to it.
I'm just going to and what we'll do,
The business of the meeting is unfinished.
Sorry, Councillor Taylor. I'll put it to a vote. Now, councillors, I just want to give you we have got 17 more motions. So if we added on 15 minutes of motion, you're still here for many hours. I just want to give
I think it's 17.
No.
Can you recount? I don't think it's 17.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, confidential 17.
Okay.
So we have 17. So we will put to the vote to see if we want to extend until 7 p.m. or an hour. Yeah, 7 p.m. for 45 minutes because I can only do an hour at a time and we missed it out 15 minutes. So that was Councillor Thaler's motion. All those in favour, hands up.
What's that for?
To extend?
For another hour.
To extend tonight.
For 1 hour.
For 1 hour at a time.
Sure.
Councillor Elliott, Councillor Williamson, Councillor Rose, Councillor Hopkins, Councillor Thaler, all those against. Councillor Summers, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Stewart, Councillor Rooney, Councillor Davis, Councillor Hannah. All right, so what we'll do is then part of 17 point... Yeah, it was lost. 17 point... I can't remember, wasn't it? So, councillors, part of 18.3, I will move that we adjourn. We'll go A, consider the rest of the meeting. The next meeting, what is only in 2 weeks' time. So we'll move everything until the 17th of April for the remaining stuff.
Can I move the motion that was sent against you on that?
Sure.
Vote on the mayor's motion.
No, we don't.
Moving motion is 10.
Sorry, councillors.
We're not done.
Sorry.
I'm actually quite
Sorry,
disappointed.
councillors. I just have to rephrase. I've just closed the meeting. So can I do a little dissent?
You close the meeting.
I didn't hear the word close.
No.
You close the meeting.
I closed and I said part of 18.3, we're deferring everything until the next meeting that will close in this reading.
Why didn't you do that inside the meeting before you said close? Because you made a decision outside of the
Sorry,
closed
Councillor Taylor, I just said when we voted at 8, we've just done that. Thank you, councillors.
Did you hear him say that he closed the meeting? Because he didn't. He's a lying shit. They all are. Higgins, Rooney, Hopkins, Summers, Davis. They lie about everything. Now, the mayor did not close the meeting. Under Rule 18.3, he moved that he would put the business into the April meeting, and I rose to make a motion of dissent. When there is a motion of dissent, you are then basically opposing a motion to oppose the chair's ruling. And I then get time to debate and put my motion of dissent, which can then be voted on. The meeting was not closed, and he lied. That is a breach of the minister's PIO. There are so many breaches of the minister's PIO. And I am now speaking in reply. I'm not bound by the PIO. They broke it. I'm replying about it. And you saw earlier, if you're still watching, Nichole Overall trying to shit talk me because while she didn't use my name at that time, Minister said, oh, the individual you're talking about. Do you also remember when the Minister, Honig, the one with the dyed hair, said, I've had magistrates talk to me who have had that individual in their court? Why would magistrates contact the Minister for Local Government other than to say, Ron, be really, really careful. That bloke's been in my court on so many false charges that it's not funny. And he knows the law. Certainly that's the complaint that was published in the Sydney Morning Herald by Tanya Higgins and Nichole Overall and Narelle Davis and Bronnie Taylor, Linda Summers. Boo-hoo-hoo, we can't ever get anything on him. He's really good at law. That's what they said, apart from the boo-hoo-hoo bit, but that's my intensive. In the Sydney Morning Herald, a national newspaper, those bitches wrote that they were disgusted. They couldn't get any charges on me in court because I'm really good at law. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm as good as any lawyer. And I will happily defend myself in court, but I'll also happily spend money on a good lawyer or a barrister. Ron Honig well knows that, because we threatened the former general manager with an injunction in the Supreme Court. The general manager was breaking the law and he quit. So you can now see how shit our council is, and it's not because of me. It's not because of Luke Williamson. It's because of Higgins talking out of place and just talking over everybody and taking over the debate with mindless questions for no reason when it wasn't even appropriate for her in the middle of another councillor debating. She just starts asking questions because she doesn't care, she doesn't listen, and she doesn't know what she's doing. And of course, Tricia, as the chair at that time, didn't stop her, didn't hold it to account, didn't put the handbrake on Rooney with his spurious allegations everywhere. He wasn't debating the motion, he was just throwing shit. And when we call him out, he then denies saying, I didn't say that. Well, actually, you did, mate. This is what they do. And these are the people that complain to the minister. I've got a recording of John Rooney threatening me in one of our meetings. That's what these people are. It is barely worth it, except that I believe for the community we deserve better and we can have better. There you go. Tell me you're in Australia without telling me you're in Australia. How about some kookaburras? This is what we are battling as the people representing the community. We're getting just shut down. Now, I did say I was going to introduce you quickly to my motions. Let me bring up my motions that I have lodged for the April meeting. I have submitted for the April meeting 13 motions to the business agenda. My first motion, I will read it, is that this council requires the mayor or any councillor who travels to any conference or event in connection with their role on this council to provide a written report of their experience at that conference or event, that this council be provided a copy of any itinerary, agenda, business paper or voting requirements prior to the travel and attendance so that the whole council is aware of the business or agenda to be conducted or things to be voted on upon in our name. That no councillor or mayor vote on any item of business at a conference event without first having obtained the approval and agreement of this council first, and to vote only in accordance with that direction, and that all expense claims submitted in respect of conference or event attendance be published along with the attendance report no later than the next monthly meeting of council. Now, why is that important? The mayor and the deputy mayor went to the Joint Regional Organisation of Councils up at Cabramatta, had a meeting. Apparently a mayor from Hobart came up and asked if they would join in her Mayors for Climate Change initiative, which is apparently a stub of an American initiative, obviously coming out of the Democratic states. Mayors for Climate Change. We haven't had that discussion. We didn't even know where their joint regional meeting was because they didn't tell us. And what other shit did they vote on at that? I've got the business paper. It's shocking. It's just climate change, climate change, climate change. We weren't told as councillors. The mayor just can't go and unilaterally vote for shit without talking to us. That's an important procedural motion. Legal PIO. My next motion is that this council seek urgent and quality legal advice with respect to appealing the Minister's Performance Improvement Order, the PIO. That this council commence legal action to appeal the Minister's PIO placed upon this council, which seeks to limit the democratic rights of this council to control its affairs without undue outside political interference, which is what we have from Nichole Overall in the National Party, Minister honing himself from the Labor Party, and those Labor dragons on our council. And that this council operate this council in the interest of the people of Snowy Monero first and foremost, and to the exclusion of all political agenda. I think that's an important motion. My next one, Smart City. That this council declare that this shire will not be a part of any Smart City or 15-minute city agenda. Make formal declaration there will be no effort to implement, support, build, receive, construct or operate any Smart City apparatus, and give notice to the state and federal government of our declaration. It's motion 3. Motion 4, support cash. That this council declare that this shire supports and welcomes the use of cash, coins and notes. Formally declare that we do not and will not support the introduction of a central bank digital currency, and write to all major banks and credit unions seeking their return to our towns and villages where possible. Offer assistance and encouragement to any hybrid banking models where multiple banking companies share common facilities. This has been touted as a way to bring banks back to our small villages or our smaller town centres, in that instead of having individual branches, that the National, the Commonwealth, St George, the Westpac, they might be able to share a common safe, a common platform, a common facility, and they just run their own individual computer terminals. So you can imagine that they each have a data link and they just run their own terminal. And so within that branch, there could be access to a National Bank, a Commonwealth Bank, a Westpac Bank, a St George Bank, an ANZ Bank. And then they can share those costs instead of running a whole facility each. I think it's got some logic. My next motion is remove the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. That this council declare we do not support the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Remove the UN Sustainable Development Goals from our community and operational plans. We can have our own sustainable goals, reasonable, practical, achievable, not some grandiose plan from some unelected bureaucrats who fly to Davos every year in private planes whilst we drive the Monero Highway. This is more an internal procedural one. We have asked for these documents. The executive and Dunche refused to provide it, so that this council, was motion 5, that this council provide councillors with all of the Cooma Sports Hall contract documents, provide councillors with all of the Cooma Sports Hall current lease and lease discussion papers. So we got $15 million some years ago off the National Party when they were in government, or when our local member, John Barilaro, to build a sports facility. And our council built it, but we don't own it. So we built it for the high school. The money came from the Sport and Rec Department. Sports and Recreation Department gave us $15 million to build a sport facility, big hall with basketball courts and pickleball. I didn't even know what pickleball was. I had to Google it. What the fuck is pickleball? Apparently it's some craze. I mean, yo-yos were a craze when I was a kid. We never built a yo-yo hall when I was growing up. We just went outside. So that was a part of the reasoning, was to have pickleball, basketball, whatever. So we built this facility. It was costed at over 20, but we only had 13 million left after we did all the design and the bullshit. So we cheapskated. We didn't build anywhere for storage. So they were going to put shipping containers outside the building to store the seats. They built it in a flood-prone land, which it nearly flooded. It's got $1 million sprung wooden basketball floor, which is easily flooded. And then apparently we built it, belongs to the school. We lease it off the school, and it costs $800,000 a year to operate, and we only earn an income of $38,000. And the school uses it 70% of the time, and we can only hire it out whenever the school's not using it. Not one councillor in the previous council ever saw any of those contracts or documents or executed leases. And I think we should, because I want to just give it back to the school. Why should ratepayers suffer an $800,000 a year annual operating cost for something that we can only use 30% of the time if the school isn't otherwise using it? It belongs to the school. We'll just hire it off the school when we need it. S355 Executive Committee, that this council provide all councillors with information as sought by any councillor under section 355 in brackets little f, Local Government Act 1993. To get a legal opinion as to the correct operation of S335, Local Government Act 1993, to avoid any uncertainty into how it is to operate and to ensure the Executive Office accords with law. Under that clause, that is how the General Manager is meant to run his business, his job. It describes his job. And 335 little f says that must provide information to councillors when requested, such that we can have informed debates. He is refusing. I got an email from a community member, asked if I could bring a motion about attending to the streetscape at Genevieve, which is not maintained. So I included the email in a motion. That's how you do it. So that this council set out a workshop to survey, design, execute upon and maintain the Genevieve streetscape. 2, fund in the operational budget the ongoing streetscape maintenance, which is we're meant to be doing anyway. 3, provide a report to this council, including that of a dilapidation survey, defect report and or works plan to address the concerns of the Genevieve community in respect to their streetscape and public areas. And 4, set out a work strategy, conduct points 1 to 3 above across all population areas of our shire and report that back to this council. 9, Badrock asbestos legal, that this council provide legal and or financial support to Matt Badrock and his family to defend against the legal threats now being made against them. So the owner of the quarry that dumped the asbestos that washed onto Matt Badrock's farm is threatening Matt Badrock legally. That owner is also threatening Chris Chan, so that we provide legal and financial support to Chris Chan and his family to defend against illegal threats. That council accept liability for the issue of prolonged exposure of the Badrock family to asbestos arising from the uncontrolled operations at 298 Nichole Road. Because we haven't made them clean the asbestos up. We've just left it there. It's still on Matt's farm now. It's nearly 4 fucking months since I reported the asbestos to the executive, and it's still laying on his farm. We have to accept responsibility as a council for that. It's outrageous. But then, importantly, 4, pay for lung volume testing and chest x-ray of all members of the Badrock family and any impacted resident along Nichole Road, as is accepted practice in occupational exposure situations. Because they've been exposed to asbestos, dust and other dusts, as well as contaminated water. Council is a party to that. So we should, as a precaution, take a chest x-ray and a lung volume test, and we file that against their property records. And if Matt or his kids or his wife or other neighbours developed asbestosis, mesothelioma in later years, we've got an exposure point recorded, because it's an occupational exposure from the business that council allowed to operate and break the law at 298 Nichole Road. This is why they want me off the council. This is why Nichole Overall wants me off the council. I wonder if Nichole Overall has an interest in 298 Nichole Road. She seems to be pretty keen to get me off. Water test results. This is motion number 10, that this council place all water sample and testing results upon their website in a dedicated webpage from all of our shire, village and population centre water supplies. They don't do it. It's a public health issue. I think they should. 2, that the water test results be published as soon as is practicable after receiving the result, and the results tables be regularly updated. 3, council develop some simple charts to display and trend the water test results over time. That 4, place the charts and data alongside or superimposed over the minimum, maximum and regulated water test results or levels as directed or required by relevant authorities, so that we can see that our council is operating our water facilities in accordance with law and health directions. The reason this is important, because I've found out that the people that were testing, the staff that were testing the water in Jindabyne and Berrydale were being bullied and they resigned. And the manager for Jindabyne and Berrydale water and wastewater supply resigned. And now the Shire manager for water and wastewater has resigned. Who is running the water and wastewater divisions in our council? So at our meeting that we just played you some of, Mr. Whitney is now the former manager of water and wastewater. And he gave us a presentation about his department. Very impressive. I really liked him. The other councillors really liked him. He knew his budgets, he knew his numbers, he knew his projects, he knew the operation, he was all over it. He moved to Jindabyne for that job in less than a year ago. It's within the last year, I think. He moved here for that job because he loves the area and he wants to be here and he's doing a job that he wants to do. And something has gone so wrong, and it's 155 circa annual income. That's not a little salary. It's a decent salary for the area, $3,000 a week plus. And he's resigned. And he's staying on until they can find a replacement, which is very gracious of him. But I want to know, what do we need to do to get him to change his mind? Why can't we get him to stay? Is he being bullied by Dunshea or Rennie or Rawlings? Is he being denied the ability to put people in their job because Rennie and Rawlings and Dunshea are trying to bank an extra $1 million to end the year to have an extra $1 million in unrestricted cash, but they're doing that by not hiring people and keeping jobs empty or vacant, which is causing stress on all the staff levels? That's where the OH&S is coming from. It's not coming from me. It's coming from the executive. That is psychosocial bullying. That is evidenced by now 2 times Rennie has come to us seeking that council approve overtime budget extensions to the waste department because they won't fill the jobs. They're relying on the current staff doing overtime, which means one of the plant operators from one of our tip areas works Monday to Friday, doesn't get RDOs, and then he works the weekend to try to open the transfer stations at Nimidabel or Bredbow or Numarella because they are refusing to hire staff. They tell us they can't get people. That's bullshit. They are refusing to hire to bank the savings to puff up their budget. And that would cause good managers to be uncomfortable, and so they resign. Breaking news. Motion 11, I won't read it out. Cancel the security guard. So that's pretty much what it says. 2, redirect the security guard budget to the reinstatement and operation of the mobile library truck. Motion 12, waste strategy. Because we've had the Jindabyne tip fill up unexpectedly, that we immediately bring the full suite of documents, consultations and engagement reports of the SMRC waste strategy back to this council and table them. Recommence work on the Shire-wide waste strategy in light of the recent closure of the Jindabyne landfill to ensure we are ready for the closure of the Cooma landfill likely occurring prior to 2030. 3, provide councillors with the full documents, contracts, offers, tenders with respect to the Cooma landfill gas capture and flaring project, because they've not told us anything about that either. I've discussed it previously. I'll hold off on that thing. And then meeting webcast. Important one. 1, that this council provide publicly the meeting webcast viewing and download data from each council meeting. Apparently the Bombala meeting in March 20th was watched by 1,780 people, and they all watched more than 70% of the 5-hour meeting. It means they all watched about 4 hours of it. It's impressive. 2, record the data in the minutes of the following council meeting. 3, never allow any meeting webcast recording to be edited, changed, muted or adulterated such that it remains a 100% factual and accurate record of the council meeting. That's important. In the previous council, Councillor Craig Mitchell called Councillor Louise Frolick a bitch. And in the recording, it was muted, so you can't hear him say it. 4, remove the claim of copyright from the meeting broadcast and replace it with a Creative Commons CC0 declaration, no rights reserved. everybody should be free to record, use, cut, clip, chop, satire, take the piss out of, laugh at, because that's true democracy. That is true public accountability. Because that's the accusation they're throwing. Who wants to tell me that that is not taking my job as a councillor on behalf of the community seriously? Do you want to try, Mr. Honig? But I'll tell you, Mr. Honig, Nichole Overall wants me out, because that's the quality of governance I bring. No bullshit, no frills, no lies. This is what the people want. This is what we need to do. I get the information, I get the facts, and I give it out to the people straight, clear, and true. Nichole Overall lied behind parliamentary privilege. Nichole Overall named me in Parliament later that same night behind, 2 weeks later, behind parliamentary privilege. Nichole Overall then went on national radio and shit talked me. Nichole Overall is the problem, Minister, not me. She's just bitchy because she lost the election. She needed that job for self-validation. She is nothing. She's this translucent, thin, venal creature without the auspice of a parliamentary title. I see you, Nichole, and I think sad. SAD. S-A-D. Hashtag, if you know, you know. All my friends know what I'm talking about. Go and ask her. Why does Andrew call you sad, Nichole? What is the persistent rumour around Queen Bian? That's, unfortunately, what we have to deal with in Snowy Monero. It is childish, it is puerile, it is pathetic, it is nasty. And this Wednesday, we have training. We have an afternoon of training. And I propose to play 1 or 2 relevant clips from our meetings to the trainer and say, please, training person, can you tell me if this is appropriate behaviour by this council? What has been done wrong? With people interjecting when you make a point of order, people being able to lie when a point of order is raised, they're mischaracterising the debate, and the chair says, oh, I don't think they said that at all, when they did. We need an umpire, like in the cricket. When you go, neat, means video replay umpire. That's what we need. You did say it. Councillor Thaler's right. Upheld. Withdraw. We need a video replay umpire. That's how bad it is. Because the people on our council with me are children. Their minds are that of children. And the wider context of the meeting we just had is the Mikalago, Kenya and Rooney, of course, didn't want to admit that they've got cheap rubbish disposal, endless cheap rubbish disposal as a consequence of council not designing something properly. And they don't want to give it up. But now that I've found out about it, I will shut it down. Or, in fairness, everybody else in the Shire gets the same thing that Mikalago has. If you've got a magic free rubbish disposal system in Mikalago, we want one in Nimittabel and one in Bredbow, one in Adaminaby, one in Bombala, one in Cooma, one in Jindabyne, one in Berrydale. We all want that too. Equity. I stand for equity, fairness, inclusion, equality. And when the Minister for Local Government wants to attack me for calling it misgendering a transgender, I'm misgendering a misgendered person who tried to use their extremely powerful powers to bring me harm and false allegation. What do you think I'm going to do, Minister? I'm going to highlight it, I'm going to amplify it, and I'm going to shut it down. Because it's also, I'm the candidate for Eden Monero in the federal election. It's my right to political communication, which I am actually using now, Minister. And well, you know it, which is why you struggle to answer the question. What can you do to me? You can read the High Court judgment. The right to political communication, whilst not enshrined in our Constitution, has still been upheld by the High Court. And you can't tangle with that, Minister. But you are trying to. I see you. I raise you. And I welcome you to take me to court, mate. Bring your magistrate friends. They can sit in the gallery and watch this time. I rather think the magistrates rang the minister up to say, hey, be careful. This bloke's having a lot of false allegations made against him. And he doesn't back down from a fight. Because the minister seemed very uncomfortable in that exchange. And Nichole Overall was just driving the conversation to get what she wanted. She wanted him to say certain things. He was trying not to. So when you see the game, you see it. It's like Neo in the Matrix. When you see all the green letters on the screen, you see through the facade, you see through the projections. That's like me. I see through their bullshit and I tell the story. Thanks for watching along this morning. Hour and 15 is probably enough of your times, enough of mine. I've got freezing cold feet now. Adios, summer. End of daylight saving. It's now the long grind of 6 months of winter here in Nichole. We get snow, we get lots of frost, we get frozen ground. Short days. I'm going to miss summer. It kind of just whisked by this year. But anyway, didn't even go to the beach. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please share it round. I don't mind about some of the silly comments in here. If someone says that I'm nuts or whatever. I don't know what happens to the comments either here. I don't know what happens to them. So I've seen them. Thank you, bystander. 100% good motions. You have to ask the questions. Brains are stuck in the 70s. And there's no innovation, but this fella is very refreshing of what could be. Thank you. I put a bit of work into this, in amongst everything else. I'm not exactly sure what will happen with these questions, these comments, but message automatically held for review. I think we deleted that one. It was silly. It's incredibly dysfunctional. And tenders are advertised for works, or does councillors find their friends? Councillors find their friends. Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago, I put forward a proposal that we use McMahon's contractors who were immediately available with licensed trucks to contemplate removing the landfill rubbish from Jindabyne, transferring it to Cooma to keep the Jindabyne system running as the people would expect it to run. And Hannah said, well, I've got friends with excavators too. Did they have a hazardous waste transport approvals? Did they have asbestos qualifications? Because I asked around different companies, McMahon's had that. I bet you Hannah's friend didn't, but he didn't care. He just had the poos that I would propose somebody. And I've known Richard and Rachel for a long time. I don't have dinner with them. We don't drink beer with each other. We live 100 k's away from each other. But they work hard and they got the gear. They've got the licenses. They've been doing this shit for a long time, and they were available. They had machinery available for immediate dispatch. They were the qualifications. I put out the disclosure and said, I've known them. This is my test. They answered first and said we could have machinery there within 2 days to deal with an emergency. And what did the mayor do? Oh, I don't like that. I want my friends to do it. That's exactly what goes on. Hannah had a supply arrangement. There was a 2-year term. That ran out, I believe. And then the council just kept using him for another 18 odd months. They didn't go to tender or request for quotation. It's quite bad now. They went to a request for quotation because we pressured the executive to say this is unacceptable to have an untendered arrangement with the mayor, which he fails to disclose, and he sits in on all the budget conversations. So he has a pecuniary interest in knowing what the budget might be. He's got a benefit over anybody else. He knows how many staff there are. He knows who's been hired. He knows when people have been hired, so he can supply their safety equipment. Could be $2,000 per employee worth of safety equipment for each new starter. All of these things should be declared. All of these things give rise to a conflict of interest, significant one. The mayor never leaves the discussion. In the latest RFQ, they decided to create a panel of suppliers. So basically anyone that tendered is now able to supply the safety equipment, but they haven't given the files for the embroidery, because you have to have Snowy Monaro Regional Council bullshit embroidered on the clothes. And the other companies that have been put on the panel don't have the embroidering file. Guess who does? Hip Pocket Workwear, Chris Hanna. Is that an interesting way to corrupt the process? Oh, we've got a panel which is nobbled all the other panel suppliers, so it's only going to go to one guy. Where's the disclosure? Where's the admission? Where's the fucking equity in that? There isn't any. And that is what we asked for an audit of. And that is what they voted down. You know what I know as fast, as quickly as I can give it to you. This week, we will be interviewing new prospective CEOs. Hopefully, one of them can bring us out of this mess. Adios. It's midday. Let's go and get something else done. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your company.